Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about rock mechanics, the following subject, rock mechanics and strata control. Basically, this subject deals with the behavior of strata under various mining conditions, and it is one of the being a mining engineer. You must know about the behavior of the strata for effective mining activity. So, in the as part of this subject, we'll be dealing with how exactly the strata behaves under various mining conditions and how effectively we can control it. So, in as part of this lecture, I'll be covering the following topics like what exactly the definition of rock mechanics, scope of rock mechanics in mining, various terminology used as part of this subject, stress, strain, Poisson's ratio, Young's modulus, bulk modulus, rigidity modulus. What is the relation between? Then we'll be covering the relation between various modulus of elasticity. Finally, I'll be dealing with various simple numerical problems on stress, strain, and different modulus of elasticity. Now, coming back to the subject, what exactly the rock mechanics is? See, if you look at the definition of rock mechanics, it is a branch of science which is used to study the behavior of rock mass under various mining conditions. How what exactly it means? It 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 indicates like how exactly whenever you are carrying out the mining activity, how exactly due to presence of overlying strata, how exactly the strata behaves. So how effectively we can control it. So in order to control, this is what exactly the scope of rock mechanics. What exactly the basic application of rock mechanics is mining. Because, as I said, rock mechanics basically deals with the study of behavior of the strata and how effectively we can control it. So based on that, the following are the various applications of rock mechanics is mining. So whenever we are carrying out the mining activity, it is basically used to deal with uh, to determine what kind of support that will be using while carrying out the mining activity. Because depending on because the type of support that we use is basically depends on at what depth the deposit is present and how exactly the what kind of overlying strata and how exactly the strata behaves and is there any important surface features, because these are the several factors that we need to take into account before we determine the supports. So one of the what you call the important aspect of using rock mechanics is mining is to determine what type of support that we'll be using in carrying out the mining activity. Okay, so because the types of support that we'll use in mining activity depends on the various important surface features. Suppose let us say if there are very important surface features such as railway line, main what you call a national highway, and any important what you call surface buildings which we need to protect which we need to protect while carrying out the mining activity. So depending on the kind of surface features and the type of precautionary measures that we need to take, will be deciding what kind of support that we'll use. Next one, the method of extraction. What method of extraction that we'll be using as per to carry out the mining activity also depends on the behavior of the overlying strata, because there are several factors which basically determines the uh, the method of mining that will be using. The factors such as the depth of the deposit, inclination of the deposit, thickness of the deposit. These are the what you call the length of the deposits, the and the type of overlying strata. These are all the various factors that basically influences the method of mining, and it is also used for the design of pillars such as width, height, and the length of the pillar, because the size of the pillar which basically determines how exactly we'll be carrying out the mining activity. So depending on the size of the pillar, because we'll be deciding the size of the pillar based on what kind of important surface that we need to protect and which method of mining that we need to adapt it. Next, the rock mechanics also used to study the physico-mechanical properties of the rock. Yes, basically the physico-mechanical properties of the rock mass. Study of physico-mechanical properties of rock mass is used is used to identify the behavior of the rock mass while carrying out the mining activity. The physico-mechanical properties such as compressive strength, tensile strength, and shear strength are we need to take into account take, be- are we need to take into account while deciding the type of mining activity. So that is based on now we can say like okay what exactly the importance of rock mechanics. Next, it is used to determine the method of extraction and the percentage of extraction. Yes, the main motto of mining activity is to extract the mineral deposit to the maximum possible extent. So, because the minerals are very precious, we need to extract the mineral deposit to the maximum extent in a safe and economic manner. That's what exactly the definition of mining indicates. So, as part of rock mechanics, by studying the behavior of the rock mass, we can identify like which method of extraction that we'll be using and what would be the percentage of extraction. So, as this is another one. The next point is it is used to protect the important surface features while carrying out the mining activity. This we already discussed. Like if there are any important surface features present on the surface, okay. According in order to protect them, we need to carry out the mining activity. We need to decide the mining activity based on that. Next, the rock mechanics also used to determine various rock mass ratings such as RMR and Q systems, etc. So, as we discussed earlier, like rock mechanics is also used to what do you call to determine the physico-mechanical properties of the rock mass. So, after determining the physico-mechanical properties of the rock mass, we'll be identifying different rock mass indices such as RMR, Q system, which based on that we can easily identify how exactly the strata behaves. So, in order to determine the RMR and Q system, we need to know the physico-mechanical properties of the rock mass. Now, coming to the various terminology that is being used in rock mechanics. The basic definition is stress. See, as we all know, whenever the force applied over a given area, it undergoes some sort of deformation. Stress is nothing but it's a ratio of force applied over a given area. So stress is equal to force by area. That is nothing but that is equal to F by A. Next, strain. The ratio of change in length to the original length is called strain because whenever we are applying a force, there will be deformation in the properties of in the rock mass. So what exactly is the strain? Strain indicates what? It is the ratio of whenever we are applying a force. Okay, is there any change in its what do you call its shape, change in its length, and what exactly its original length was? The ratio of change in length to the original length that is being represented as strain. Next, next one is what is Poisson's ratio? Because these are all the basic definitions that we'll be using in throughout the subject. Okay, while dealing with the what we call rock mechanics. Okay, what is Poisson's ratio? It is the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. So whenever you are applying a force along one direction, there will be deformation along the direction. In the same way, there will be change in its dimension in the other direction also. So the direction along which the force applied, that is called longitudinal, and the direction other than the applied force direction is called lateral. So there will be whenever we apply the force, there will be deformation on the force applied direction, and there will be corresponding deformation in the lateral direction as well. So, what exactly the Poisson's ratio? The Poisson's ratio is it is the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. Means how much is the deformation of the rock mass in the lateral direction to the how much is the deformation of the rock mass in the longitudinal direction. So generally, the value of Poisson's ratio, it will be less than 1. It will be 0 to 1. Uh, Next one. Now let us discuss this. We know, like we just now we discussed about what is stress and what is strain. Stress basically, just to reiterate, the stress basically indicates what, the amount of force applied over a given area. Stress is equal to force by area, and the strain is change in length to the original length, and the Poisson's ratio is, it's a ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. Now let us discuss this stress strain. With the application of stress, how much will be the vertical deformation in the rock mass. Look at here. This graph basically indicates the behavior of rock mass or the behavior under while performing the laboratory conditions, how exactly the rock mass behaves. If I draw this graph, basically represents what you call the relation between the stress and strain. If you look into the diagram, the what you call distance between O to A is called proportionality limit. That is nothing but proportionality limit. Nothing but it is within the what you call within the elastic limits. Now A represents the elastic limits. So the Hooke's law, what exactly the Hooke's law? The Hooke's law is what you call within the elastic limits, the stress is directly proportional to strain. So if we apply the what you call uniformly apply the stress, okay, we uniformly apply the stress within the elastic limits, there will not be any permanent deformation. There will not be any permanent deformation. But if you keep on increasing the force, then it reaches what you call yield point, that is called B. See, in this diagram, basically A represents the elastic limit and E represents what, a yield point. So once it reaches the maximum of yield point, then what happens? There will be some sort of what, permanent deformation in the rock mass. It changes its shape. It changes its what called various due to changing its dimensions of the specimen. It changes its space. It's a shape. So the point B represents what, the yield stress point. Then afterwards, so once it reaches, there will be a slight lowering the yield point. Then if we keep on increasing the further increasing its stress, basically it increases up to a point of ultimate stress. This is the maximum stress point. Afterwards, without even applying the stress, okay, we are not increasing any sort of stress, the point automatically it breaks. This is called the breaking point or the rupture point. So basically this curve depends the behavior of the specimen under various stress conditions. Whenever we apply the stress, what would be the corresponding strain? Let me repeat. In this diagram, because this is one of the what you call important concept that we must understand before we move forward in to understand the rock mechanics subject. So if you look at here in this diagram, this diagram basically represents the relation between stress and strain. On y-axis stress and x-axis strain. Okay, and the point O to A, this distance represents the proportionality limit. That is nothing but the behavior of the rock mass is within the elastic limits. See, if you look at the Hooke's law, if you remember the Hooke's law, right, it is within the elastic limits. What exactly the Hooke's law says? We say within the elastic limits, the stress is directly proportional to strain. That's nothing but if you apply the load, if the whatever the load that you have applied, if it is within the elastic limits, there will not be any permanent deformation. Permanent deformation. That's why the point A is called elastic limit, and the point B is called yield point, because we are further increase the load applied on the specimen. It reaches a yield point, and after reaching the yield point there will be a slight what you call decreasing in its yield stress, that is called lower point. This one, if you further increase this one, it reaches the ultimate stress point. That's where exactly it start. There will be a permanent the distance between C to D, this is called the plastic behavior. Once it reaches the point D without applying any further stress, it starts breaking. That is called breaking point of it. See here, there is a decreasing in its stress. because it's undergone the permanent deformation and there is a plastic behavior. Then afterwards, automatically it starts breaking, it starts failing. Let us discuss more about this. See, the stress strain curve has different regions and points. These regions and points are proportional limit, elastic limit, yield point, ultimate stress point, and fracture point. Proportional limit is point A, and elastic limit is also proportional limit is nothing but O to A, and elastic limit is A, and yield point is B. Next one is ultimate stress point is D, and the last E is a fracture or breaking point. Let's see what exactly each one. Proportional limit. Proportional limit. It is the region in the strain curve which obeys the Hooke's law. That is, within the elastic limit, the stress is directly proportional to strain produced in the material. In this limit, the ratio of stress to strain gives a proportionality constant. The ratio of, say, I repeat, within the elastic limit, the ratio of stress with strain gives us a proportionality constant known as Young's modulus. So the point OA in the graph, the point OA in the graph represents the proportionality. In the graph is called the proportional limit. Next comes to the elastic limit. It is the point in the graph up to which the material returns to its original position, because as I said, within the elastic limits there will not be any permanent deformation. So that's why soon after what you call withdrawal of the applied stress or applied force, okay, it restored back to its original condition. That is why it is called the elastic point, elastic limit. It is the point in the graph. Let's see here. It is the point in the graph to which the material returns to its original position when the load acting on it is completely removed. Beyond this limit, the material cannot return to the original position, because if the stress applied on this exceed this one, there will be a what you call permanent deformation, and the plastic deformation starts appearing in it. The point A is the elastic limit in the graph. This is what it is. The point A is the elastic limit in the graph. Next, yield point or stress point. Yield point in a stress strain graph is defined as the point at which the material starts to deform plastically. That's nothing but there will be a permanent deformation. After a yield point is passed, there will be permanent deformation develops in the material, and which is not reversible. There are two yield points, and it is upper yield point and lower yield point. The stress corresponding to the yield point is called yield point stress. The point B is the upper yield point stress, and the point C is lower yield point stress. That's what is yield stress point. So point B is upper and the point C is lower. Next one, ultimate stress point. It is the point corresponding to the maximum stress that a metal can handle before fail, because this is the maximum load that it can bear. If the load acting on it exceeds this point, it starts failing. So it is the maximum stress point of the metal that can handle the maximum load. Beyond this point, the failure takes place. The point D in the graph is the ultimate stress point. Fracture or breaking point. Fracture or breaking point. Yeah. So these are the various points on this are the points of stress strain graph. Okay, the fracture or breaking point, it is the point in the stress strain curve at which the failure of the metal takes place. The fracture or the breaking point of the metal takes place at this point. The point E is the breaking point in the graph. This is what exactly what we call about the stress strain curve. See, we need to understand this one very clearly, because this knowledge is useful in coming lectures. Next, what are the different types of stresses? The stresses acting on a rock mass are classified into following three types. One is compressive, because both the in case of compressive, see here, both the forces are acting toward this one and it will tries to compress the material. Tensile, so that's nothing but here, if you look at the diagram, the forces are acting away from each other and it will try to what you call enlarge the material. Shear stress, The forces which are acting along the failure plane, they are called shear. See here the rock mass, whatever the specimen that we have here in this diagram, it's got failed due to shear. This is called this. These arrows represent the shear stress, and this plane is called shear failure plane, shear plane. Okay, so just to reiterate, there are the stresses are of stresses acting on a rock mass are of three types. One is of compressive, both towards inside, tensile, both the stresses to away from each other, and the shear stress, nothing but it's acting along the plane of failure. So these are the three different types of stresses. Now coming to the different modulus of elasticity. Okay, as we discussed here, within the elastic limits, look at here, this one. Yes, from O to A, it is within the elastic limits. So what exactly Hooke's law says is, if whenever you apply the load, if it is present within the elastic limits, the stress is directly proportional to strain, and there will be a proportionality constant. That constant is called Young's modulus. That constant is called Young's modulus. Look at here. Yes. So what exactly the Young's modulus is? It is the ratio of stress to the strain. So as we all know, stress is nothing but the force applied over a given area, and the strain is nothing but change in length to the original length due to application of the force. So the formula for Young's modulus of elasticity E, Young's modulus E is equal to, see, stress in F by A is the stress divided by delta L by L is the strain. This is what exactly the formula for computing Young's modulus. Next, rigidity modulus. See, whenever we are applying different forces, it may subjected to shear. So what exactly the what do you call rigidity modulus represents? It is the ratio of shear stress. See here the toe in this diagram, toe represents the shear force that will be acting on this block of rock mass. So due to application of the shear force, there will be what you call change in its length, change in its length delta L, and this is what exactly the original length was L. Change in length along this direction. So what exactly the it is the ratio of shear stress to the shear strain. Shear strain is nothing but what? Change of original length to the it is what exactly the strain? It's the ratio of change in length to the original length. That's nothing but delta L by L. So the rigidity modulus basically represents the ratio of shear stress to the shear strain. Next, let's coming to the bulk modulus. It is the look at here. Bulk modulus basically what you call determines with the volume. It deals with the volume. So it's the ratio of volumetric stress to the volumetric strain. If you look at the block of rock mass cube, it is of volume V0. Okay, due to application of forces, there will be a change in its volume, right? So what exactly the bulk mass is? It is the ratio of volumetric stress to the volumetric strain. So far we discussed about three different modulus of elasticity. One is Young's modulus, second one is which is the ratio of stress to strain, and rigidity modulus C, that is nothing but which is the ratio of shear stress to the shear strain. Next one is the last one is bulk modulus, and it's the ratio of volumetric stress to the volumetric strain. Now, what are the institute stresses? So, if you look at here, this basically before making the mining activity, okay, before making the mining activity, if you take any point, the stresses acting on that particular point are in equilibrium. They will be in equilibrium. So, what exactly the institute stress represents? The stresses that are acting on a block of rock mass in its in situ conditions. That's nothing but without making any disturbance in it, because in its whatever the state it got formed. Okay, the stresses acting on it in its in situ condition are known as, or in the state of formation, in its state of formation are known as in situ stresses. In situ condition of rock mass, the stresses acting on the block of rock mass are in equilibrium. If you look at here, yes, sigma x, sigma y, and sigma z are various stresses acting on this block of rock mass. Okay, and sigma x is the stress acting along x direction, and sigma y is the stress acting along y direction, and sigma z is the stress acting along the z direction. Sigma x, sigma y, and sigma z. So under in situ condition, before making the mining activity, before performing the mining activity, the stresses acting on the block of rock mass or they will be in equilibrium. That's nothing but sigma x is equal to sigma y is equal to sigma z. Let's move on. Next, what are induced stresses? As I said, before performing the what we call the mining activity, the stresses acting on a block of rock mass are known as what? In situ stresses. Next, what is induced stresses? The stress of stresses acting on a block of rock mass during mining operations. Due to due to mining activity, the stresses acting on the rock mass gets disturbed, or they will be what you call induced. They get disturbed and they will be induced, and those kind of stresses are called uh, stresses are known as what you call induced stresses. So the induced stresses, see, look at here, the state of stresses acting on a block of rock mass during mining operations. The induced stresses acting on a block of rock mass are not in equilibrium. Due to mining activity, the stresses which are in equilibrium get disturbed. There's nothing but the stresses which were in equilibrium during while it is in situ condition gets disturbed. Next, let us discuss the relation between different modulus of elasticity. The relation between, look at here in this slide, relation between Young's modulus E and the bulk modulus K. So the relation between Young's modulus and what exactly the Young's modulus? It's the ratio of stress to the strain, and bulk modulus is nothing but it's a ratio of what? Volumetric stress to the volumetric strain. Okay, what exactly the relation between them? E is equal to 3k into 1 minus 2 mu. Here mu represents Poisson's ratio. We discussed this earlier in the earlier slides. What exactly the Poisson's ratio? It's the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. Lateral, once again I am repeating, it's the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. So that's what exactly the Poisson's ratio. So the relation between the Young's modulus and the bulk modulus is E is equal to 3k into 1 minus 2 mu. Next, relation between Young's modulus E and the other modulus, what do you call other modulus, rigidity modulus G, knowing the Poisson's ratio mu. E is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu. Here, E is equal to Young's modulus and G is equal to rigidity modulus and mu is equal to Poisson's ratio. Okay, what exactly the rigidity modulus? It's the ratio of shear stress to the shear strain. Next, relation between all the three modulus of elasticity, like what you call Young's modulus E, rigidity modulus G, and the bulk modulus K. So E is equal to, the relation is E is equal to 9kg by 3k plus G, where E is equal to Young modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus, and G is equal to rigidity modulus, and K is equal to bulk modulus. This is what exactly the relation between three different modulus of elasticity. Moving forward, let us what we call solve simple numerical problems based on the what are the basic concepts that we had learned so far. Okay, simple numerical problems on various models of elasticity. Let's see the first example. A compressive force of 20 kilonewtons is acting on a rock specimen of diameter 100 mm. Okay, the diameter of the rock specimen is 100 mm and the force acting on the specimen is 20 kilonewtons. Calculate the stress acting on the rock specimen. It's a simple problem. The force acting, see what are the data given is the force acting on the rock sample is 20 kilonewtons and the diameter of the sample is D, capital D is equal to 100 mm. That's nothing but 0.1 meters. So area we can calculate it. Area A is equal to pi d square by 4. So upon substituting these values, we will be getting area equal to 0.00785 and the force is 20 kilonewtons, 20 into Kilo means 10 to the power of 3 divided by area is 0.00785. Upon solving this what you call this numerical, where the result is 2.54 megapascal, 2.54 into 10 to the power of 6 pascals. So that's what exactly the value of stress acting, value of the stress. Okay, which is a very very simple problem. Next one, let us discuss. Okay, let us solve one more problem. Given the Young's modulus of elasticity, okay, because we already discussed the relation between different modulus of elasticity. So given the Young's modulus of elasticity of the sample, there is nothing but E is equal to 10 megapascal. That's nothing but 10 into 10 to the power of 6 pascal. The Poisson's ratio mu is equal to 0.45. Calculate the rigidity modulus. We know pretty well the relation between the Young's modulus and the rigidity modulus. Okay, E is equal to 2g into 1 plus mu. So here the value given in the problem, the given values are E is equal to 10 into 10 to the power of 16, right, is equal to 2 into g, that we need to calculate it, and the 1 plus mu is equal to 0.45. That's nothing but 1.45 if you combine these two. So when so after solving this equation, the value of g is equal to 3.45 into 10 to the power of 6 pascals. That's nothing but 3.45 megapascals. Okay, let's take another problem. Let's solve another problem now. Given the modulus of elasticity of rock specimen, so E is given as 6 megapascals and the value of Poisson's ratio 0.65. Calculate the bulk modulus K. So we know the relation between Young's modulus and the bulk modulus E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. So E is equal to 6 into 10 to the power 6, that is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 into 0.65. So upon solving this equation, the value of K is equal to minus 6.67 into 10 to the power of 6 pascals. Okay, and next another problem. So in this problem we are given three different modulus of elasticity, like what you call Young's modulus E, rigidity modulus G of this specimen, and we are asked to calculate the bulk modulus K. See here, the Young's modulus of the specimen is equal to of rock mass is equal to 8 megapascal. The rigidity modulus is 6 megapascals, and you are asked to calculate bulk modulus. So the relation between three different modulus of elasticity, we know, as we discussed earlier, E is equal to 9kg by 3k plus g. So E is equal to 8, 9k into g is nothing but 6 divided by 3k, 3 into k, that we need to compute it, and the value of g is 6. So upon solving this equation, okay, the value of k is equal to minus zero point 0.2 megapascals. Now here you are given two different modulus of elasticity and your modulus, and you are asked to calculate what exactly the Poisson's ratio. Look at this problem. A rock specimen is having Young's modulus E is equal to 6 megapascals and its rigidity modulus G is equal to 4 megapascal. Calculate Poisson's ratio. So given Young's modulus E is equal to 6 megapascal, the rigidity modulus G is equal to 4 megapascals, and Poisson's ratio mu is equal to that, we need to compute it. So E is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu. And you are given the value of E as 6, that is equal to 2 into G is nothing but 4 to 1 plus mu. Mu, that we are supposed to calculate it. The value. So upon solving this equation, the value of mu is equal to minus 0.25. That we got it. So that's all for today. Thank you.